Hi and welcome to this episode from Lattice Training. Today, me and Ollie are going to be doing a training session together and you're just going to follow along with us.
Yeah, we'll try and give a top tip for every aspect of our training today. So we're going to do a warm-up. I think we're both fingerboarding.
Yeah.
You're going to campus.
I'm going to campus. Pretty new session for me, so.
I'm going to go on the board and do some projects. And then we're going to do
bit of conditioning.
Bit of conditioning. Cool. So
we don't even know what we're doing.
Exactly.
First tip, plan out your session. Now's when you get on Shakira, hips don't lie.
Yeah. Effectively, a little thing for me is I always pull my teres major and my lats a little bit. They get really tight. And if I don't warm up properly and I'm quite cold and I pull on, I just feel it kind of like strain down here every session. So little tip if that happens for you, is just roll it out beforehand. And it's pretty good actually. Kind of like stops that from happening. And it's like you add it into the mobility section of your warm up, which I'm going to do next.
So one thing I really like to incorporate into my warm-up for any session really is shoulder dislocators. I'm using like a sort of broom handle today, but TheraBand also works just as well. And the reason I like to do this, probably like lots of people out there, is we sit at our desk like this for hours and then we get up and we think we just hop on the wall, and if I do that I find that my shoulders often feel a bit sort of tweaky, and also I don't think I as naturally get into that more open chest position where I can like really get my scapula in a good position. So using either a broom or a TheraBand, I just do this a few times and I feel like it sort of makes my shoulders feel a bit more ready for all the pulling we're doing. One thing I like to do actually, which makes it feel a bit nicer, is I like really push out into the movement at the top, and this just means that I get like a nicer rotation and good range of movement at the shoulders. You kind of have to like breathe a bit with it as well to really get the stretch.
So we still do this on our home board at home, which is like 7 foot by 7 foot or something. And you can just keep your feet on the floor and just do a little bit of traversing. Easy peasy.
I definitely find like warming up for fingerboarding pretty hard, and I think before I actually hang off it and like manage any seconds, I do fingerboard jumping. And it just starts to spend like a bit longer in the position. Or you can do it like really but you know, top tip, you heard it here first. Also, like when you sort of, the next phase of fingerboard play is maybe just like some jumps and catches. Like not hard, but just sort of makes the thought of hanging off the fingerboard a bit easier.
So we've both done a bit of climbing out on the splatterboard to warm up, so just really easy problems, a bit of traversing and stuff. Now we're going to do a bit of fingerboarding, so build up slowly. I'm going to do half a session on one arm hangs, so I'm trying to get my max hangs up. But I'm only going to do a half session because I'm going to go on the board for projects. I think doing a half session before climbing is really good, because I think it's really hard to fit it in. Like, because I'm just doing a lot of strength training at the moment, so not doing as much mileage, so I'm not training as frequently, and then trying to fit fingerboarding around, that's quite hard. So half session, max recruitment, then go on the board after. It's like a good way of fitting it in. You're still working towards your max loads, but then you're not getting too fatigued. So that's my top tip.
Can I just say, we've moved out the weights out of the way and some of us are not tall enough to reach the fingerboard. Yeah, top tip if you're at the climbing wall and they're not sort of inclusive enough to put it somewhere that you can reach. Wait, make sure you don't suddenly fail and like trip over on it. I'm going to do 2 arm hangs. I'm definitely not at the stage for 1 arm hangs yet, and I'm going to do quite a short, sharp session as well, because like Ollie, I'm gonna do some campusing afterwards and then go on the board. So I'm gonna do some 5-second hangs. So these are gonna be like a pretty heavy weight for me, but quite short duration, and hopefully feel nice and recruited when I go on the board. When I'm starting out on the fingerboard, like I said, might be a lot of people out there who hang with loads of weights, and I'm sort of building on this, but I can't just suddenly jump on the fingerboard at body weight. So using either the floor or the weight, if that's what you can reach. I actually quite like to just sort of let my body weight sink down into the fingerboard a little bit. I tend to do like just a couple of short reps of this before, you know, get ready to lift my feet off the floor.
That's fancy, isn't it? Top tip, get one of these.
Yeah, these are long socks. Got my mum to thank for these. Christmas socks. Very important when you live in the UK and it's cold out. Get the layers up.
So that's 3 sets, so I'm done. Nice warm up. And then I'm going to go and warm up on the board again to just get used to the angle. Do some easy climbs and jugs, and I'll see you over there.
So that's fingerboarding all done. 5-second hangs with 18 kilos, which I'm pretty psyched with. Basically, finger strength is definitely a relative weakness of mine, and so it's always something I'm looking to focus on. So I want them to be like quite high quality sessions, and like with most things, if we've sort of been, you know, doing 10-second hangs for a while or a certain training session, we might want to change the stimulus a bit. So for fingers, I think people often look to switch between like max hangs and repeaters, and there's lots of different things you can do. But I think for me personally, because I really want to try and work that top end strength, moving to the 5-second hangs and being able to really up the weight is quite nice. I also feel like it's quite a direct way that I know I'm working towards my fingerboard goal, because I can
Sorry.
Classic. It's also quite a direct way.
I'm showing you on the podcast.
Oh, I assumed you were doing that on purpose. Are you going to do it again?
No.
Okay. It's also quite a direct way for me to see that I'm working towards my fingerboard goal, because I can actually put on the weight that I want to hang with, and I can work on the time that I'm hanging with it for over the weeks.
I'm going to try 3 different problems. One that Sam's given me, and 2 that I've set with Dave another date. I'm going to try and project them, so I have quite a few attempts at them, a lot of rest in between, just try and work them. They're quite big moves and barely moves, so they're not too fingery.
Come on. That's it, get it good. Come on. Good effort. Oh, nice. That was well good.
It's your problem, isn't it? Before?
Yeah, generous. Generous.
I'd say V9, let's go V9. So 7C.
So as I said, campusing's pretty new for me, so don't know how qualified I am to have like loads of top training tips, but have some way to record how many sets or reps you've done when it comes to strength training, because sometimes I lose count and then you end up doing either too little, or usually I go for too many because I don't want to feel like I'm slacking on my training, and then I sort of impact the quality of the rest of my session. So I'm going to make sure I keep track because it's new and it's going to be hard for me.
top tip for board climbing in the cold, and this is like a complete sales pitch, I'm quite happy to admit that, is using this spit stuff. I've only just started using it, and then wooden holds when it's really cold. I keep firing up. Put a bit of this on, so you just spray it on your fingers, and then rub it in, chalk, and then it feels so much better. So it's almost cheating. This one is maybe like V11, maybe. It's quite wide for me, so I've fallen off the top, maybe, well, like the last move before the top, like 3-4 times now. That's the best I've done, so maybe I'll get a bit closer, but we'll see. So I just finished on problem 2. I didn't make much more progress today actually, so it was still really good though. I've kind of got 2 methods of doing that move up from the sloper to the sloper. It's like the real flat is like lumbrical squeezes. I can do it with a drop knee, and you have to keep your left foot on, or square on and keep your left foot on, but pretty much you probably see if you cut, it's really hard to hold them because you just rip off, and it makes the next top move really wild. If you keep your left foot on, the top move's kind of manageable. But then the link is just desperate in terms of powering out, so I didn't do as well today, but it's a few moves in the bank, so that's quite good. And then I'm going to move on before I get too tired, so I'm going to go on to a bit more of a fingery one now.
Cool, so I finished my campus session now. Managed to just about keep track of the number of sets I'd done and whether I'd led with my left or my right. I'm not very good at my left and right, so that is quite hard to keep track of. But all done with that, it was really fun. It's quite nice actually to just have something new and a bit of a new movement to work on. And so my next session, I'm going to head onto the board and do a 5x3 strength interval session. So this is a pretty high intensity bouldering session, but I'm going to use problems that I've already done on here and I know them quite well, and I'm going to try and do repeats on them with 2.5 minute rest in between. So I've done fingerboarding and campusing, which are pretty maximal, so although I'm going to keep on that strength focus, this should be a little bit more sort of consolidating my strength on problems that I already know.
So just finished the board sessions and had a little break, a cup of tea, and I'm going to start doing some conditioning now. For me personally, I'm just going to be doing some shoulder shrugs and some shoulder press. It's really good to work your upper traps, and I've been struggling with neck issues over the last few years, so I've been working my upper trap muscles quite a bit more, and it's really helped. And these are 2 exercises which are great for that. So if you are struggling with that, it might be something to experiment with and just try it out over time and see if it makes a difference. So I'm just doing the shoulder shrugs on a lean, as you might see, just so it stops it rolling up. You can use a dumbbell. I think it's called a leaning Gilterson shrug, and it's really good because you can do loads of extra load. And I'm doing hypertrophy sets, so 3 sets of 10. So 3 sets of 10 again. Still doing that hypertrophy, same kind of muscle group, slightly different action, and that's really good.
So I'm going to do some core today for my conditioning, and I'm essentially going to do a progression into a lever lift. So I really struggle with bar core, and I actually know quite a lot of people that do, and especially I struggle to progress it from kind of leg raises and an L-sit, which I can do, but to try and push out into that front lever position, like the full extension. And in a previous training cycle, I actually did the tucked versions, and I got a bit better, but I realized that still when I was trying to do those really extended positions on steep climbs, I still wasn't quite getting the strength that I wanted. And so this time round, I found something that personally I found really useful, and that is to actually go into the full front lever position but use assistance instead. And I guess I feel like this really helped me get a proper feel for the full position, and then I'm going to reduce the assistance as I get stronger at it. So you can see I'm using quite like a heavy assistance, but I could reduce this as I get a little bit better. So what I'm sort of trying to do here is focus on pretty good form, because again I'm quite new to this exercise, and I pull up into the lever position and then I'm just trying to lower myself quite slowly. That's where I'm really like putting in the work at the moment. So I'm doing a mixture of like reps of that, maybe about 8 I can do at the moment with good form. I'll rest, I'll do that 3 times. And then I'm also gonna do a hold. So maybe going for about 5 seconds, but again, just really focusing on form and trying to get that position where I'm essentially sort of focusing on trying to push the bar away from me, really get my lats involved, and then keep a good solid core. So as you can see, that's pretty hard for me at the moment, but you can always film yourself doing that. This is something that I've done before, and so you can keep a little good eye on your form.
So there you have it, hard day of training. I think we did splatter, warm up, fingerboard, you did campus, project board for me, mileage for both of us, and then some weights training afterwards. I think we're both in like a strength training phase, and we are both pretty well trained, so we are kind of used to this, and we've done a heavy set of volume training in sort of the last cycle and previous to that. So don't try and just do that off the bat if you've not done it before, and if you've got a home board trying to do the same thing, it might even be even more intense just because how steep it is the whole time. It's a good session, isn't it?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, so I combined, like you said, we've both been doing quite a lot of strength training, but the high intensity stuff for me is a bit new. So when I went for my fingerboard session, which is in that half 4 position, that was quite a short, sharp session. And then for my campus board session, I made sure I was on like big holds, just focusing on distance, and then sort of, yeah, some more mileage on easier, well-known problems on the board. So it all sounds quite high intensity, and it was for me, but I did put some thought into it there on the different sessions that I chose to combine.
Yeah, and just mixing up those movement patterns that you're doing, so like big pinches, small holds, it does make a massive difference to not making you completely trashed in one form only. And then we've both done different types of conditioning at the end, so we're not working sort of our arms or our fingers at the end of the session. So even though we train for another half an hour at the end, it's still not too bad on those areas that have got an absolute beating on the board.
Yeah, good to sort of, even if you're doing a lot of strength training, you can combine some. You just got to think about mixing up maybe the different areas of your body or muscle groups that you're working on.
If you want to see any more of these training sessions or seeing us doing any projecting, just comment below and please let us know, because we find this really fun and it's great to kind of share our little tricks and tips on training. So we'll see you soon.